Oh, spring is in the air. Risotto is in the kitchen. I'm so excited. This to me is what is great about cooking. You can celebrate the seasons, and we're in that wonderful place, the shoulder, well, at least here in Minnesota, it's a shoulder moment in the seasons. Winter has gone away, spring is here, but not really, but it's a wonderful time to start to celebrate. And we're gonna celebrate with peas and morel mushrooms. And my favorite way, one of my favorite ways to enjoy this incredible duo of ingredients is to place them in a risotto. And I'm gonna show you how to make a classic risotto that you can use this technique to put anything in it, whether it's a classic Milanese, and yes, recipes are on our website, or you wanna make a seafood risotto with a different kind of broth, whatever you wanna make. But the idea here is to create a risotto that's creamy, as the Italians like to say, alla onda, right? That isn't a gloppy mess. Your risotto should be served on a plate, and it should be able to move on that plate when it's nice and hot. So we're gonna show you how to do that, and the easiest way to do that is by adding your broth nice and slowly, and it's such a crucial thing. While my pan is warming up, let me welcome you to AZ Cooks Instagram Live edition. I am Andrew Zimmern. Thank you to our sponsors, the beautiful people at Flor de Caña, the kings of rum, Nicaraguan rum that I'm absolutely a huge fan of, and our good friends at Shun, who make such fantastic knives. Thank you so much for continuing to sponsor us. Occasionally, as you know, about once a month, we like to invite someone into the kitchen to chitty chat with us. Today we have one of my favorite human beings in the world, Michelle Collins. Elegant, funny, a smarty pants. I just think the world of her. She's fantastic. You may know her from the Michelle Collins Show that I've done a whole bunch on Sirius XM, or from her killer new podcast. It's been on for a while, Midnight Snack. You're gonna absolutely love her. If you don't know Michelle, you will absolutely adore her. And we're gonna see if my risotto is worthy to get me to cook my way onto one of those reality dating shows. She's kind of an expert on those kinds of things. I have my butter in my pan, and I'm going to add some shallots, and I'm going to add 2 cups of arborio rice. And yes, it should be arborio rice. It can be another Italian rice suitable for risotto, but please, by all means, don't try to make this with Carolina long grain. It doesn't work. You can make a nice pilaf with Carolina long grain. Don't make this with, a Japanese short grain rice that's used for making sushi. You can make lots of other rice dishes with that, but it's very difficult to make risotto without an Italian rice that has the right amount of amylose in it. That's the starch that gets released into the risotto that makes it nice and creamy. Nice and creamy. I'm going to add a little bit of chili flake to this. Not a lot, just a little. I'm going to add some ground pepper to this. I know that seems like a lot, but it's not really. We'll add more at the table. But I like the chili and the pepper to cook in there. And I'm just moving this around the pan. I'm not toasting it. I just want to saute the shallots and saute the rice briefly and get some nice thermal momentum in my pan. I'm guessing about a medium flame. And I'm going to take my hot. Do you see the steam coming off of this? This is the most important thing that you're gonna do as you learn to cook risotto. I have 10 cups of stock in here. Oh, gotta add, I know I forgot something. Add my white wine. And we're gonna let that mixture that's in there cook almost all the way down until the pan is dry. I want all of that liquid to go into those rice kernels, especially on that first cook. Really important. As the risotto is cooking, as it keeps going in the pan, We are going to be adding 1 cup, cup and a half at a time. And at the end, we're going to slow down and we're going to start adding liquid before the rice has absorbed everything, so that as the starch releases into the liquid, it actually keeps the sauce creamy at the end. We'll finish it with a little butter, we'll finish it with a little cheese, and most importantly, we're going to finish it with this puree. This is a puree of peas and parsley. We just did it in, you could do it in a food processor, you could do it in a blender, you can do it in a Vitamix. You can add a few tablespoons of water if you want to help it along. And then it's just passed through a sieve. You don't need to pass it through a sieve. If you don't pass it through a sieve, it's gonna be a little rustic looking. You'll have little tiny chunks of peas and parsley, which is fantastic, just gives it a different look. This one is very elegant. You have a really nice smooth green color. Now, you may be wondering, why is it so important to start with hot stock? Well, if you notice here, even though I have this on medium, my risotto, give this nice little stir, is actually simmering, right? So as you add cups of stock, it sort of never loses its thermal momentum. And then we're going to garnish with some of our leftover Parmesan cheese and these beautiful morels. These are the first of the year from our purveyor. They're just wonderful, nice and firm, super clean. I'm always excited about the first morels of the season. And we're just gonna saute those in a little bit of butter and just use those to garnish on the top. I have a little bit of wonderful Palestinian olive oil that I just got from the Green and Gold people, and maybe we'll drizzle a little bit of that on the top, and we will end up with a stunning risotto dish. But what I want you to pay the most attention to is the process of adding the liquid to this. The first few cups, including the wine, we're gonna let almost entirely evaporate because we're trying to plump the grains. And then as we move forward, we're going to keep adding stock, cup and a half at a time, and we're not gonna let it completely evaporate before we add the next batch of liquid. Does that make sense? I hope so. I stashed my butter somewhere.
It's under the flowers.
Oh, it's under the flowers. Fantastic. I'm gonna cut some pieces now. And the reason I'm gonna cut some pieces, if I threw this whole half stick in, it's not gonna get absorbed into our dish. So I wanna make sure that I cut this butter into pats, place it into a little work bowl. It's just a super easy way to control what you are doing when you're in the kitchen, to have everything sort of at the ready to finish the dish. So I have all of my goodies here. I'm not panicked for anything. Take a look at what's happening over here. Just in the couple minutes that we've been talking, you can see that rice starting to plump. You can see that starchy look to the water. That's amylose and amylite, the two different starches that are in the rice, starting to come out. And we're gonna keep cooking this down and cooking this down because I want all of that liquid to go into that rice before I carry on with the rest of our cooking. The one thing that we didn't address is salting. I usually like to do salting twice. Once sort of at the beginning, that way I know it's seasoned, in case I forget. Then at the end, where I'm actually gonna taste it, and then I'm gonna adjust the seasoning to make sure that I have enough in there. But I'm not going to adjust my seasoning for salt until I'm done adding my cheese. This dish takes, I don't know what, a cup and a half, 2 cups of cheese into it, plus the salted butter. So you really wanna make sure that you're not over salting your dish, so wait to the very end to season it. As you can see here, the rice is absorbing all of that liquid, right? I'm just shaking it back and forth. I'm not playing with my food. I'm just slightly agitating the pan just so that everything cooks nice and evenly. All right, is Michelle there? Do we have Michelle?
Not yet.
All right. I know she's watching, spending a lot of time figuring out what outfit to wear. Come on over here, take a look at what's going on. You see, as I move this around. You know how you can tell when water is absorbed? When I move the end of this is acting as a spatula. This is one of those rubber ladles. But when I go like that, see there's no water there? That's starchy liquid that the rice is absorbing. And I want that rice to keep absorbing that starchy water. It's sort of the reverse of what we want when we're making pasta, because that's going to help make the risotto toothsome, and it's going to help make our sauce nice and creamy when we do finally sit down to eat this. Now, when you see, I don't want to scorch the dish or burn the starch, right? So when I move my spatula or the edge of my spoon like that and I see that there's very little liquid coming back in, I'll add another cup. And I won't wait as long to add more liquid. And now, when I push this back, you can see the liquid rush in. So we want the risotto, or actually the rice now, because it's not yet risotto. We want the rice to absorb that liquid, cup and a half at a time.
She's ready.
Oh, fantastic.
If you're ready.
Yeah, no, I was born ready. You kidding me?
We're waiting. Can you use different rice besides arborio to make this?
Sure, you can use. I mean, I've used rices for paella. I've used bamba rice. There are 2 or 3 other varietals of rice that are grown in northern Italy. You have to remember the starch of choice in northern Italy is not pasta; it's rice. So any of the northern Italian rices, you knew all this, Michelle Collins, didn't you?
Obviously. Are you kidding me? I'm a risotto queen, Andrew. You know that.
Nobody knows that better than I. How are you, my friend?
I'm so good. I've been watching you the whole time, by the way. I was there. I heard the word toothsome. I heard about starches. Cheers. How are you?
I used all of that. Are you back in New York?
I am. Can you not tell by how confined I look in my apartment? I am back in New York.
I can tell because your Instagram feed stopped being pictures of your knees and cats.
Yes, I have no cats. My internet is about as slow as it gets. No cats here, but just happy to be with you. Happy to see you, and happy belated Passover. How's everything?
And to you as well. Very good. I wanted to have you on for a couple reasons. Number one, completely selfish, so I could say hi. Number two, because I wanted your honest opinion on this. I've tried out for every reality show that there is, especially when it involves cooking of any kind, because I think that I could get my way onto these things, and I keep hearing back that I have my skill set is too high. And so the question that I wanted to address today is, like, can you be too good a cook to be on one of those reality shows? That doesn't make any sense. I would think that they would want people who are at the peak of their game. And then I want to talk about college with you.
I'm down for everything, but I don't understand. What shows do you want to go on? Like Top Chef as a contestant, or what do you want to do?
No, I want to be on Survivor. I want to be on 90 Day Fiance. I mean, am I too old? Am I too good a cook? What do you think it is?
Okay, honestly, I think the problem with 90 Day is you actually own a home and you're successful. They usually it's a show populated by renters, a lot of pacers.
Yeah.
And if anything, you're too young for that show and too handsome. They tend to go for, really pretty much the bottom of the barrel, and then you could end up with like the finest that Slovakia has to offer. Andrew, I don't know.
True. There's a lot of wisdom in that. I know of what you speak.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question. By the way, I can't tilt this down.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, I sort of can.
What are we auditioning for right now? Is this your OnlyFans? I'm confused. Okay.
No, I have a question about that for you.
Yes.
I want to do OnlyFans, and here's why.
Okay.
Here's why. It used to be the place for people that were adult stars or people in the margins of the entertainment business trying to scrape by to use the subscription mechanism to get dollars. but I am reading a lot of industry mags that a lot of other people are starting OnlyFans accounts as a way to connect with their fans and give them private subscription content. I'm giving away all of this stuff for free on Instagram.
I have to tell you, we might be two of the dumbest Jews there are, because I give everything away for free as well.
Yeah.
And by the way, and I don't own a home for your viewers watching, so I don't know exactly what I'm doing. But I've been very, as the pandemic has progressed, personally, I've become much more comfortable with myself. I think because I'm just with myself so much, that I'm at the point that I'm okay almost with posting a lingerie photo. Like, I'm not even being funny. I'm this close away from giving America what it wants. The question is,
we've been asking for
the $8.
We've been well, that's the thing. Because you've actually, seriously, you've hit on the head for me. I'm like, who would pay $24 for something? And then I saw the other day that young rap artist, Bad Baby, made $1 million in 2 hours on OnlyFans, and I'm like, wow.
You need to change your name, capitalize off of baldness to Good Baby, and you need to somehow, I don't even know, I'm just thinking for you, I'm an idea machine.
No, I'm with you.
I feel like you should do it. I mean, listen, there's, people have like Patreon, I'm sure you know, it's something called Substack.
Sure.
People like yourself are making money by getting
Substack, super legit.
Yeah.
Patreon, super legit. Started as being less, I don't want to say less legit, but on the margins, right? And because I am very pro. I mean, I am the most lefty liberal person of all time, right? So I am very pro I'm pro sex worker, I'm pro anything worker, and
we get it.
You want to make your living, go for it. But the amazing thing to me is that Patreon is now gone into, it's a great example of why I think you and I are going to wind up on OnlyFans. Somehow, some way,
I'm honestly not joking. I'm ready. I've actually been kicking myself for the past year. And I have my radio show on Sirius. I have a podcast called Midnight Snack for those watching, but I have not taken advantage of people being thirsty for entertainment and to laugh and things like that. Like, I have not really I don't know. I don't think about money like that, and I'm stupid. I really should. And believe it or not, I have an agent.
It will come. It's going to come to you. Because I'm glad that you segued into some of the things that you do. I have been lucky enough to be a guest a couple times. That's actually how we know each other on your Sirius XM show. But I started listening to Midnight Snack, and that is one of the funniest, just best podcasts. I'm sorry. I'm the biggest political geek there is, and I need a respite from all of the doom and gloom. And this is like my ultimate. And I don't want to. I hope you take this in the wonderful spirit in which it's intended. It is my favorite guilty pleasure. I do nothing but giggle and enjoy myself, and it's just the best. Tell me how that started.
I have to say something. I had no idea that you listened to it,
yeah.
And I am so over the moon flattered that you would even think to download it that I'm like in shock, honestly.
What do you mean, really?
Thank you. Yes. I don't know. It's like that because it's funny. I do it here in just like I do my series show where I'm sitting right now at my desk in my apartment.
Yep.
And it's a very, very intimate show. I talk. I know you're going to be coming on soon, hopefully. But I talk to these celebrities or comedians, right? And I forget that people listen. It's not like if I'm on stage and performing in front of a big audience. It's very intimate. So I also have no idea really numbers or who's on the other end. I've been so lucky, honestly, forget the OnlyFans stuff, but I've been so lucky to work, frankly, this past year and to work on stuff that I really love doing. Serious, people used to come into the studio. Now I barely put a bra on. I'm not even being joking. Like, that's like when we have a big guest, like major, I'll put a bra on.
Yeah.
I usually sit here in the morning, 8 o'clock, just glasses, I brush my teeth, and I talk to these people all over the country who have projects coming out and do the news, and it's been, honestly, some of the most fun I've had ever. I've really enjoyed it.
It sounds, you can tell when someone is having a good time, right? And you were clearly having a good time on that show, and it comes across, and I think that's probably why it's so enjoyable, because if I know for me, if I'm not having a good time making one of my episodes, I know in whatever one of the shows I'm doing, I know it's going to be an absolute disaster. I have a couple really fast questions for you before I let you go. First, because we're asking everyone, the beard thing that I'm going for is rakish rabbinical. That's kind of the look. I know you're a little biased on the rabbinical part, not sure about the rakish, but what do you think?
I don't love the word rakish. Actually, I was going to really call you out on rakish. In the Me Too movement, I don't know if I would use the word rakish.
Okay.
I would just say hipster Brooklyn rabbinical, I think makes a little bit, I think that's a good look for you, actually.
Could Brooklyn rabbinical be a little too Hasidim for what I'm going for?
I'm actually thinking more hipster, like Williamsburg rabbinical. Like
Okay, Williamsburg. Okay, well, it could be beer tap room rabbinical.
What do you want? You want to get it longer? I don't think you should go longer than this.
Okay. Second question. I learned this the other day. I decided, like any good person who's going to be talking to a professional that they admire, I didn't want to blow anything when I was talking to you. And so I wanted to look up your curriculum vitae, because you've done so much. Oh, this is what I was going to say before that I got distracted by. I am convinced, I can feel, even in pandemic, your star about to explode across the heavens. I really mean that. I just want to tell you now, so a year from now I can say I called it, but it is like, don't worry about the money thing. It's just going,
No, I'm not.
It's just going like this. Second thing, you went to Barnard?
I did.
I know the answer to this question. Would you care to tell people what you majored in?
Shockingly, I majored in art history.
Really?
I don't know
Me too.
Did you not know that? Did you?
We've never talked about it. How this never came up, I have no idea.
I'm just going to grab the closest painting to me, which now that I know you're an expert, I have two dog paintings. They're all on work. There's this one, which I don't know if you've ever seen.
I have not.
And then I have a new one. That no one's ever seen before, so give me 1 second, I can go grab it.
But I want to know what your concentration was. Go grab the painting. Meanwhile, I should tell all of those that are following along at home, Michelle Collins is joining us, she of the Michelle Collins Show, and her new podcast, which is called Midnight Snack. And I just keep adding a cup and a half of stock to our risotto, bit by bit, and the difference being that on all of these ads, I don't let all the liquid absorb before I add more, and that is going to result in a plump grain, still toothsome, but the risotto will be, as the Italians say, alla onda, which will mean that it will have a little bit of sauce, thick, creamy sauce running from it, sauce that is thickened by the starch from the rice. Continue, what's the second photo?
Can I just say, this is one of the filthiest recipes I've ever heard in my life. Every second word from your mouth, I'm just like, chef
Michelle,
Zimmern.
this is a family.
Not gone down. Okay, wait, my concentration was literally not failing, and I wrote my thesis on the Holocaust, get excited, and I wrote it in like 3 days about the art that was stolen from our peoples.
Yep.
This next thing was not one of them. And when I tell you that I did not fail by the skin of my teeth, like it was past fail, but I was this close. I was not a good student, but don't let that affect your opinion of literally, and it was not cheap, okay?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I went to Vassar. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful.
Isn't that nice? I bought it in New Hope, Pennsylvania. I saw it just, outside of the store. I drove home, and a week later I went back and bought it. You know when something just stays in your head?
Yeah.
You can't do something about it.
Do you miss performing in front of a crowd?
Very much, yeah.
Are you excited to get back? I know, because weren't you doing a one-woman show weekends in New York, downtown in the West Village for a while?
I had a live show at Joe's Pub that was like once a month.
Once a month.
Joe's Pub is like one of my favorite venues in the world, and I do miss it. You know why? Because for me, like my stand-up is almost like my podcast on crack, where I'm just so revved up by the live crowd. I'm sure you're this way too, where I get something extra inside of me, and to not have that outlet for me has been quite toothsome. Just to tie it back to your risotto, it's been hard. It's
But is it creamy? But is it creamy when it's on the plate?
Isn't it always? Chef?
Oh, it should be. It should be. So let me ask you a question. Do you remember the title of your thesis?
I don't, but I remember that the first sentence was like a 2,800 word long run-on sentence about the boots that the Nazis wore.
That's what makes a good thesis. I was a 19th century. I had two majors, a double major, art history and history, because I was on the 6-year plan because I kept getting tossed out because I was a drug addict and alcoholic. So I'd have like 2 semesters of really good grades, and then I get thrown out for something, and then they'd let me back in. My concentration was 19th century, painting and photography. But I will never forget it because I thought it was one of the best pieces of wordsmithing I've ever come up with. And I like the idea because the challenge is next time I'm going to need fake thesis titles from Michelle Collins. So the real one for me, this is actually my thesis at Vassar College in 1983. The daguerreotype, the generic predecessor to the photograph, and its ramifications towards defining cultural nationalism in pre-Civil War America. Talk about dork.
Wow.
Dork.
Honestly, what a Vassar boy you are. I didn't know you went to Vassar. You're almost like a...
I did go to Vassar.
To Barnard, actually. Yeah.
Ah, yes, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Vassar, when I arrived there in 1979, there were like 5 guys. It was crazy town, really. But I chose...
Imagining if we had 5 guys at Barnard, their skeletons would be hanging in the cafeteria like at the Natural History Museum.
Kind of the same way at Vassar back then, too. I love you to death. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining us. Everybody should listen to Michelle's many, many shows. I should know this, but I was too focused on the Barnard and the art history thing. But is there a website where all things Michelle Collins can be, for anyone who's interested in knowing and keeping up and all that stuff?
Well, if you want to see unfiltered photos of me, you can Google me or follow me on Instagram at Michcoll, MICHCOLL. And I don't have a website. I think I owe GoDaddy like $800. I don't know what happened, but
you don't need one because you have that killer IG account, and we'll make sure to let everyone know where to follow all things Michelle. Someday, if I actually go on Midnight Snack, I can scratch that off my bucket list. And I'm glad you're back in New York, safe and sound.
It's gonna happen. I mean, I can't even believe it should have happened already. That will happen before summertime in Vegas.
Fantastic. But I want to do the same content everybody else does.
Oh, it'll be total bullshit.
I watch a lot of trashy TV.
Okay. Wouldn't you watch 90 Day? Let me just know what you watch. 90 Day, Married at First Sight?
I have a huge on Married at First Sight. I wanted to be on that wife swap, but they said you needed a wife. I had a lot of issues with some of them. Anyway, it's a long story. We'll get into it on your show.
Figure it out. You'll come on the podcast. Thank you for having me. Enjoy your risotto.
No,
Bye.
thank you. See you later. Bye. Michelle Collins is just the best. Very funny, very smart lady. I think the world of her. I went on her show, I want to say like 5 years ago for the first time. And it was one of the best interviews I ever did. She asked, not in terms of the answers, she just is a great person to converse with. All right, so all rice is going to be different. I have about 1.5 cups of liquid left down here at the bottom. But I'm at the point right now where, I hate to say it, but we've cooked this with such spot-on technique, because this is a no-fail technique, that I can see that a la onda. Do you see that creamy sauce, right? There's no cream, there's no butter in here. That's just the starch from the rice. I can actually see that the rice is still a little crunchy. Super close though. This only needs about another, minute and a half. Now, what I want to tell people something will call for a certain amount of liquid, like in a banana bread, or a dish like risotto with a certain amount of liquid. And the most important advice anyone can ever give you when making those dishes is make sure to test the batter for yourself. Taste the rice for yourself, because here's what's happening right now. It's so humid out. It's been raining here for days. The bag of risotto that we used, I think Madeline put it away, but had already been opened and used. So the rice has actually got some hydration in it. You want to know how humid it is in my house? I keep all kinds of different salts in these little wooden things. My smoked salt is just fine, but I have this really amazing lemon salt that has so much lemon peel in it, it actually kind of gunked up, right? That's because there's humidity in the air. So if you're 7-8% less liquid, which is about what we're gonna wind up with, that's totally fine. All right, let's start the process of plating. First thing that's gonna go in here is gonna be my pea puree. And I'm gonna turn down the flame on my risotto to low. And I'm just gonna start stirring this from the middle and then incorporate my pea and parsley puree into the risotto.
What if you don't want to use wine? Are there any substitutes?
Just delete it. The wine brings out a lot of flavor in it and gives sort of a little tart backbone to it. I like the flavor of cooked white wine. It just gives a little tartness to it, but just skip it. It's not a big deal. So I've put the requisite amount of pea puree into there, and you can see how beautiful and creamy this is. I don't need to add any more liquid at all. Now I'm going to add 3 of those pats of butter. I'm making enough risotto here for, I don't know, 5-6 people for an entree. So here's a 1.5 cups of Parmesan cheese. And I'm going to stir this around. Now that Parmesan cheese is going to thicken this up. It's going to tighten it up a little bit. And I'm actually just going to turn that off because there's still a lot of ambient heat there. Add my shelled and cooked peas because I don't want to do anything other than warm the peas through. Now, I tasted the risotto when I checked the rice for doneness, and it could have used a little salt. And I've also added the pea puree and the peas, but there's enough salt in the parm for that. So I'm just going to add that little bit of salt that I threw in there, a few pinches, and I just keep stirring this nice and gently. I happen to love these rubberized ladles because I can use them both as spatula and ladle. Oh yeah, I just tasted that and that is absolute perfection. And that's gonna rest for a second. Gonna heat those up. Grab a plate. And we are going to enjoy some fabulous risotto together. Questions? Anyone have anything they want to talk about?
What other types of mix-ins or toppings do you like with risotto?
I keep it really simple. We have a great risotto Milanese recipe on our website, which just has saffron in it and a few peas. I do love a shellfish risotto, lobster, crab, or shrimp. And I save anyone who's been watching me cook for any amount of time on Instagram or followed me at all, you know that I save all my shrimp and lobster shells, and it's really to make pasta sauces, soups, and risotto, and I probably do it with risotto the most. You can use lobster stock or shrimp stock and just a handful of leftover flaked white fish like halibut that's in season right now, and you can have an incredible risotto. These are sizzling. We'll turn that off. Was there another question, Madeline?
Let's see, do you have any more shows coming up?
I do. Family Dinner on Discovery Plus. Let me show you this. That is perfect risotto. When you can shake it like that and it flattens out and you have that creamy sauce. And I'm going to scatter a couple of these morels around. And then I'm going to put just a little bit of parm on there. And then I'm going to just throw, just because I love the aroma, this is new oil, this year's oil from a Palestinian cooperative. It's called Green and Gold. It's wonderful. I love this stuff. greenandgoldmill.com. But that risotto there is about, I don't know, as good as risotto gets. My first job working in Italy was at an Italian restaurant in Venice called Alla Colomba, and I eventually rose through the ranks and was the risotto cook there, and that's where I learned. I know a lot of risotto doesn't look like this, but trust me, when you shake it, it should flatten out and be creamy. Oh my God. And the rice should be toothsome, just resistant enough to the teeth. Those fresh sauteed morels are so woodsy and aromatic. It's like smelling a forest floor on a 7 a.m. walk with your dog. Unbelievable. And for peas and morels, rice and parm have such an incredible affinity for each other.
Have you ever been morel mushroom hunting?
Glad you asked. Yes, we have incredible morels here in the upper Midwest. I try to go every year. It's a lot of fun. I can't wait. I've got my son psyched to do it with me this year, so I'm really jazzed about the whole thing. Yeah, the morels here in Minnesota, we've bumped into patches in some of the state parks. You come walking around a corner, and I mean, literally, we've had them like the size of your fist. It's unbelievable.
Where did you find these morels?
These we ordered from our friends at Makuni, who are specialty food brokers out of the Pacific Northwest. And I get a lot of specialty goods from them. It's too early right now for our morel season. Although I did, my friend Cassidy Dabney, who's the chef at Blackberry Farm, award-winning, one of the best chefs in the country, posted her first morel sighting of the season down in Tennessee, and I got all excited, and then I realized, oh, she's in Tennessee, I'm in Minnesota, I gotta wait 6-7 weeks.
Can you make polenta sometime?
Oh gosh, yes. As a matter of fact, I just made polenta the other day. Polenta's fantastic, and I especially love it with beef stew with a lot of red wine in it. I also like it under chicken cacciatore, a real traditional cacciatore, which means hunter style. So it has to have very specific things in it, an old-fashioned one. So yeah, we'll put that on the list, although it's a little hearty. And I think on our website, we have my polenta recipe with a wild mushroom ragu on top, meatless, that's absolutely fantastic. So if it's still cold where you are and you want a really good polenta and wild mushroom recipe to go on top of it, we got you covered. Big thank you to our sponsors, the people at Shun, who make my favorite knives, the folks at Florida Cognac Rum, makers of my favorite rum. And I say that as someone who's 29 and a half years sober. Go figure that. I really hope you enjoyed listening to Michelle Collins. She's one of my favorite people. Please support her in all of her stuff. On Instagram, MICHCOLL. Please follow her, although I got to assume those of you who are watching this now already do. And make this incredible risotto. I mean, I know that for some people, you think risotto is too daunting, it's too hard, it's too complex. It's not. It's super simple and super forgiving and super delicious. Anyway, thank you so much. It's great to be with you. Be with you again next Thursday. Do we know what we're doing next Thursday? That means I owe Madeline the recipe.
don't.
That's what that squint means. That means she's pissed off. Never piss off a mom. Okay, anyway. Love you all. Thank you. Be kind to each other.